the little piece that I was telling you about. Basically the piece that holds the rear main seal. This is the new rear main seal that I have. And then for the Victor Rines gasket, they have a metal version of the seal that goes right over here. So this, or a gasket, sorry. This gasket goes right there. I'll show you underneath. Okay, so underneath, that's what it looks like. Basically, originally they had this little cheap paper gasket, so I have to clean all this stuff up. I already got the transmission cleaned up. Still need to go to the store and get a clutch tool so then I can properly align the clutch disc when I set it up in the pressure, tighten down the pressure plate. So basically doing that. Once I get the transmission back up, I will be back to you guys. Alright guys, so reinstalled the rear main seal holder with the new metal gasket. As you can see at the side, the little black part, and then reinstalled it with the new rear main seal. So next thing I'm going to do is install the flywheel along with the pilot bearing, and then I'll be ready to start fitting the clutch up and set back up. Basically, I figured out that you definitely have to use the E30 M42 little ring off the dual mass flywheel, and here's the reason why. Basically, all you have to do is take a drill it out. Basically, with the M20, the circular section inside here is smaller, and that's what makes the difference. So what happens is the M20 flywheel, since the hole inside here is smaller and the plate goes on the front, the hole for the plate is smaller, which means that it won't fit on the crankshaft for the E30 M42. Alright, so here's what I was talking about. Basically, there's a little dowel pin, so I'm assuming that most of the other people on the forums would just remove that. For me, I don't see that as the correct way of doing it, so that's why, again, I drilled it out. And to show you, see, you have that space so that you can still get this around the piece for the crank shaft, and that's the main important part. But once you have this dowel pin piece drilled out, then you have this little plate sitting exactly how it should, and it doesn't really take that much to drill that out. Basically, you can just use the step drill, and then that's it. Step drill, and then I guess a circular file if you really need to file it down just a little bit so it fits on and off smooth. But pretty much doing it this way is the more correct way. So now that I got that set up, I'm going to install the flywheel and tighten down the flywheel bolts. Alright guys, so cleaned up the pressure plate and the clutch disc. Pressure plate was fine. Burn spots were superficial. Basically, the clutch ended up glazing the pressure plate. I have the flywheel up, the pilot bearing installed, and then as you guys can see, just shaved down just a little bit on these spots for the oil pan, just because before there's like barely space enough for like a credit card, so just for extra precaution, shaved those down a little bit. But now I'm going to go ahead and install the clutch disc and the pressure plate. Alrighty guys, got the clutch and pressure plate installed. All the bolts are torqued down to spec. Clutch is properly aligned, so I'm going to swap out the starter and then get ready to reinstall the transmission. Alright guys, so transmission's back in place. Slave cylinder's back in place. just need to tighten up the bolts up top for the starter and put back in the starter. Reconnect this wires, these wires for the reverse light switch. I'm just gonna put some quick disconnects just because if I want to remove this boot up here, then I can easily just disconnect it, because otherwise there's no point to really have a straight lead wire to the reverse light switch over here. Also, I took out the driving shaft because I decided that I'm gonna go swap out the differential to the 373 LSD differential that I have, and I'm gonna do that after I'm done with the starter and putting the transmission back up itself. So once I get the starter back in, I'm gonna go work on the differential. After I do the differential, I can bolt that back in, or bolt the driving shaft back in, set that back up, raise the transmission back up, and bolt that back up, and then I can put back on the exhaust, and I will finally be done with my M20 single mass flywheel conversion. Also, since I have the starters out, I wanted to show you, this is the original E30 M42 starter. If you can notice the size of the gear, and then this is a M20 starter. Right off the back, you can notice the size difference. This gear is definitely smaller than this gear. That's the reason why you have to either swap out the gear, or you can just swap the starter. Again, here's the side view, so you can see starters look pretty much exactly the same. So, except for this extra bolt that's not even really being used. But I got this starter off another E30 that I bought for parts, so just gonna go ahead and install this one. Again, everything's pretty much the same. Just have to remove this screw, and then bolt the starter in and hook it up, and I should be able to fire this thing up. So hopefully everything works, and once I get the differential started on, then I will be back to you guys. Hey guys, it's like 12 o'clock and I'm exhausted. So the last thing I'm doing is just dropping a small case 391 LSD differential. Tomorrow I'm going to swap it out for the medium case 373 LSD. But pretty much ready to come down now, actually. Let's do that. Gotta finesse this thing one-handed by myself. Extremely tired. That's it. Didn't get to start the car yet, just cranked it. Starter that I got is working, what it looks like for the most part, and got the differential out. Gonna have to swap that polyurethane bushing over to the 373 LSD. Gonna have to paint it up, and then tomorrow I'll slap that in, put the axles back on, driving shaft back in, rest of the exhaust, everything else, and I can go drive the car. I stepped on the clutch pedal just to check the stiffness of it, and it's a little bit stiffer than before, which I don't really mind because I'm getting the performance gain. But no longer using this LSD bad boy, little small case. You can tell by the width of these little pieces right here, and got the little tag 391. Served me well, but now it's time for the upgrade. You can tell it's a small case because the fill plug and the drain plug are not aligned in a straight line. I'll show you tomorrow that on the medium case, the fill plug and drain plug are aligned in a line. But that's it for tonight, guys. See you tomorrow. Quickly before I put this up, as you can see, this is a small case 391 LSD differential, and then I just finished painting up my medium case 373 LSD. You guys could immediately see the difference. One easy thing to notice, just the thickness of the axle output shafts, and again the oil fill and drain lines are in a line. Knocked out the old standard rear differential bushing. I installed my PowerFlex differential bushing. So since it's all painted up and dry now, I'm gonna go install this thing and I'll be back. Alright guys, so real quick, another quick side by side. As you can see, a lot thinner than this one. That's because this is a small case, this is a medium case. Just a quick size comparison. Again, you can notice the offset right there. Another quick thing is, if you ever get a differential and you want to find out whether or not it's an LSD differential, if you notice, as I rotate the input shaft, both the output shafts rotate in the same direction at the same time. Same thing for this one. And also you can, if you're trying to check the gear ratio, you can make a mark, say like right here as your center, and then make a mark right here or right here, and then it takes 3.75 turns of the input shaft to get one full rotation out of the output shafts. And that's how you would check for a 373. For a 391, you'd do the same exact thing, but it would take you 3.91 turns to get one full rotation of the output shaft. And that's how you'd basically check the gear ratio of a differential. So say you're going to purchase a used one or one off somebody, you can't always go based off of the tags that are back here, because obviously people can swap the tags out, but that's a surefire way of checking it without getting bamboozled. Alright, so time to put this thing up. Alright guys, so I finally painted this piping black. Basically done with everything. Fit back up underneath, exhaust is back on, driving shaft, everything else. 373 LSD differentials in. So I'm gonna start it up and test drive it. I'm gonna end up changing the differential fluid, just because it's always the best thing to do when you get parts from the junkyard. So really grateful that you guys are watching. Spending a lot of time recording. Really appreciate it. Please like, share, and subscribe, and thank you for watching, guys.
Alright guys, so time to crank the car up. And okay. Everything seems to be working pretty good. Started right up. Few little other small minor adjustments that I still gotta make with some stuff, but fired right up, sounds pretty good. Gonna test out the clutch. First gear. Hand brakes down. Oh. There we go. Alright, so that's it. Gonna go drop this thing down and go for a test drive. Thanks for watching, guys.